Marx's perspective throughout is to try to get inside what might be called the working mechanism, the heart and the core and the essence of what capital is about. And from that basis, you can start, therefore, to see the emergence of the third level of abstraction, which we're going to look at. So we have the first level, which is the scale, the second level, which is the question of perspective. The third level is within capital itself. How does capital create abstractions to which everybody who is engaged with capital is forced to comply? And this is a much more complex kind of story. It goes something like this. We start with the commodity. I look at a situation and I see commodity exchange going on. I go into a supermarket and people say to me, what's going on? Well, people are exchanging things, money for commodities. All of the things you see in a supermarket are very different qualities and use values and all the rest of it, but they have this in common that they have all been produced for exchange. And the exchange is such that people want the commodity and need the commodity and they're going to use it. So we start then with the concept of the commodity, and that's what Marx calls a concrete abstraction. The concrete abstraction continues when we say, well, what goes on with a commodity? The commodity has an exchange value because that's what you pay for it in the supermarket. It has a use value because that's what you do with it when you take the commodity home. So we can start, therefore, again, at the level of concrete abstraction, start to talk about the commodity as a use value and exchange value. But then we ask a sort of question, well, how come that commodity costs twice as much as as a commodity, as this other commodity? And the answer is there must be something going on there which is common to all commodities. What is it? And this is where we move from the concrete abstractions, which are, of the sort that I've already described, to theoretical abstraction. Well, they must have something in common, we say. What is that commonality they have? Well, Marx's answer is they're all products of human labor. Therefore, what they have in common is that they are products of human labor. Therefore, it is labor input which is involved. And then you kind of say concretely, all right, well, let's see. And you go back and you find this person takes 12 hours to make a pair of shoes. This person makes a pair of shoes in 6 hours. And you say, well, in that case, they should exchange in the rate that, well, if you get the shoes from this person, you pay 12 hours equivalent of labor, and this person 6 hours. No, says Marx. In the market, it's all rendered equal, so that there is something called socially necessary labor time as opposed to labor time. That is a theoretical abstraction. And Marx then says, so we start to work now with theoretical abstractions. And those theoretical abstractions are built step by step into a whole kind of theory of exactly how a capitalist mode of production works. Under the coercive laws of competition, for example, all capitalists find themselves in competition with other capitalists, and that capitalist who has a superior technology is likely to drive out of business the other capitalists which have inferior technologies. So therefore, there is always a pursuit of a technological edge, new technologies. And this is, again, therefore, the coercive laws of competition force capitalists to be very concerned with the kind of technology which they use and to seek out technological advantage wherever they possibly can. Now, this is an abstraction. So therefore, we're saying that actually capitalists are not free to do what they want. They cannot, spend hours and hours and hours on something when somebody else spends minutes on it. They cannot do that. They are forced by the logic of the system. The abstraction is created by competition between individual capitalists, creating a standard to which all capitalists must comply. And that starts to be, if you like, the concrete abstraction, which becomes the theoretical abstraction, which starts to dominate capitalist behavior. Capitalists start to behave in such a way that they start to become entrepreneurs who are constantly seeking out technological advantage relative to other capitalists. And this is one of the rules of the game within capitalism, that your technology has to be better than everybody else's if you're going to survive. So this is, if you like, one of the rules. Now, Marx is very emphatic about these rules. And lest you think it's only Marx who is emphatic about it, I remind you that Adam Smith talked about the hidden hand of the market. And basically, he said the hidden hand of the market determines and fixes things. And that therefore it doesn't really matter why individuals do what they do, because the hidden hand of the market in the end is going to be determining what happens. So again, this is where the abstraction comes in. The abstract rules which get set up through capital as capital sets them up are very powerful in terms of regulating what happens in terms of the prices of things, of the interest rate, and all those kinds of things. So the abstractions which come to dominate us are those which capital creates in the course of its own evolution and its own becoming and its own structures.